Hello, Karen here, bringing you another video today with some art journal pages using the acrylic inks by ColourCraft. I started off without a plan, just putting down some colour. Started off with the orange acrylic ink. I don't have a plan, so generally I do go for two corners and one opposite side. So you'll see that I sort of roughly did that pattern today. Starting off with the orange, as I said, and then when I picked up the yellow, I did a similar pattern, two opposite corners and the opposite side. That fills in roughly the whole page, really, starting with the lighter colours, filling in lots of space, and just left a little bit of blank page in the centre there. Switching to slightly darker colours, I started with Scarlet. And you can layer the acrylic inks. This is what I really love about them. You can layer them over each other so that you get lots of different shades. So you get some darker oranges where the scarlet's gone onto the orange, some different oranges where the scarlet's on the yellow. And that's what I really love. They're translucid inks, very fluid, move very easily. And now I've switched to the crimson with just smaller spots to start with. So I started to layer some more crimson over a lot of the yellow. I felt there was too much contrast for the background that I wanted. The more crimson that I layered onto the yellow, the more, of course, it made the parts that hadn't got any other colour on them stand out even more. So I ended up very lightly shading quite a lot of the yellow. Then I stamped onto the background lots of flowers, one larger one and then lots of smaller ones. Again, no plan, just where I thought they would look good, trying to make them look haphazard, that kind of planned hazard look. Eagle-eyed amongst you might wonder why I've got a Cuttlebug plate underneath my pages as well, and that's so that when I'm stamping it actually does give some support, and then I remember to also protect the pages underneath. So hence the pieces of card you'll see me use quite a lot as well. So I just kept layering on lots of different flowers until I'd pretty much filled the background, but at the same time leaving some space for other stamping. Always making sure that I have a few little bits going off the edge. I'd prepared some masks, so I've laid these down now for some more stamping, but keeping the flowers then to the foreground. I wanted all the other stamping to appear as if it was behind the flowers. So I used some tone on tone. I used an orange ink with this stamp, going over where the flowers were, but making sure that none of the stamping actually went into the flowers. That gives the appearance that the background stamping, the sort of random texture stamps, they look as if then they're behind the flowers. It's a very easy technique. It just takes a little bit of time to stamp the masking paper, which is effectively a sticky back paper, repositionable, as you can see, so it's easy to use. The time that's the part that's time consuming is to actually cut them all out in the first place, but once you've done that you can keep them and reuse them over and over. So again, I just went around the page, filling in a lot of space, leaving little bits for other texture as well. And again, these background stamps, I'm quite happy to use those over and over in the background, building up layers. And here, to make the flowers look brighter and to make them pop a little bit more off the page, I went back in with the Scarlet and a finer brush, and I went round all of the flowers, feathering out the colour with my finger. And it's basically negative painting, shading around the image to make that look as if it's brighter and popping off the page, and the background goes a little bit darker. And again, with the Scarlet, it was just layering over to get lots of different shades depending on what colour it's going over from behind. So I went round all of the flowers doing the same thing, as you'll see there. There's no need for you to watch me do every single one, but you get the idea of what I did. So that's where all the flowers are now done, and I'm returning to more background stamping. You can see that the flowers now look a lot brighter on the page. So I used one background stamped pretty much around the edge, almost like a bit of a border. That was my thinking at this point. This is using a red ink now. So again, it's keeping within the warm tones that I started with. So it all goes into the background. There's no contrast here really of colour. It's just all background, building up layers and layers. So I return now with this stamp and just went a bit crazy, adding in lots and lots of touches. I knew this was going to be the last texture stamp I used really. So I just went crazy, sort of any little bits of space. More is more. And now I went to the Design It paste for some texture. This is the Copper ColourCraft Design It paste. I just love this colour, and again it was the warm on warm tones that I was looking for, so it blended in beautifully with all the other orange tones that are on here. I also made sure again that I wasn't going into any of the flowers. I wanted the flowers to look as if they were popping off this background. So I was quite careful to make sure I went around the flowers, going off the edges in some places, going across that central part as well to make sure it looked cohesive and that there wasn't really two distinct pages, but that it was one double spread. Obviously I had to leave that to dry once I was happy with the amount of colour that I got on there. Once it was dry, this is the Turquoise acrylic ink, and I was colouring in the flowers with this. Again, because these inks are translucid, where the turquoise was going over the redder colours, it was giving a sort of purpley tone. Where it was going over the yellows, it was giving a more green tone. But by this point, I decided that this turquoise was going to be my main contrast colour. So I knew that whatever I used afterwards, you'll see where I use it on white, the true colour of it. But I knew that it would blend in by using it as a contrast as well on the flowers. And I really love this brush set as well. The thicker brushes, all the brushes I've used throughout this video are all from the same golden set. The fine brushes for doing detailed work like this are really excellent. I think everybody has their favourite set. Again, I won't show you me colouring in all the flowers because obviously it takes some time. This was a nice relaxing exercise to do. But here's the turquoise on white paper. This is the true colour of it. It's a really nice vibrant colour, and you can see how easily the acrylic inks blend out there. So I just kept going until there was really no colour left on my brush. And then I added in some of the green. So because I didn't want a completely uniform colour, I just added spots of that and blended those in again until there was nothing left on my brush. So I extended the colour out, really cleaning off the brush and then blending in the colour. And then I switched to the Cobalt, which is a darker blue. So because it's a darker colour, I used just a small amount. I just picked up off the lid there and just added in a few spots, and again just blended those out. And this was the piece that I was going to use for my contrast, for my focal points. So I left that to dry then and switched back to working on the background. Everything was dry there. So now I picked up the acrylic paints. These are the Eco acrylic paints in white and black, and I started off doing some detailed work with the white, again colouring in the flowers. You'll see I use both ends of the paintbrush here. I use the tail end of the paintbrush to do little spots of white, and then the fine brush itself to colour in other parts. And the white is frequently used in art journaling to make things pop, and you can see how much difference it makes. There was quite a lot of detail on these flowers, so it was easy to pick out parts to colour in. If you have different focal images, it's still good to use some white paint just to give some highlights. Little lines, little spots, doesn't matter what really, but just to give some detail and to make things pop and stand off the page. You can see that even though this is a background, it's got quite a 3D effect by masking the flowers and working around them. And then these details really make them pop even more and stand off even more off the page. So although they're background, they're getting quite a life of their own. Again, I won't show you all of the flowers being done because again it's a nice relaxing exercise. It takes a little bit of time when you've got a detailed stamp like this, less time when you're just adding a few highlights. But it's something I really enjoy doing, so I was quite happy to sit and colour in all of these. So that's all of the flowers done there. I then added a little bit of water to the same paint and a bigger brush and did some nice splatters all over the background, again often used in art journaling. It adds a lot of contrast and more detail, more depth to the background. And then the same thing with the black eco acrylic paint. I added a little bit of water and did some nice splatters onto the background, generally trying to avoid my flowers, but not necessarily managing that in every place. It doesn't matter. I do like my black splatters. And then I used a sponge with the same ink, just picking up what was left on the mat there, and went all around the edge of the pages. It gives a nice frame. It's also more contrast. It makes everything that's on the page stand out that little bit more, and you can see the lovely sheen of the copper there. And then I used the very edge, the edge of the sponge, to go round and add a little bit more of a border. And then I got completely carried away and started adding more and more because I really liked the effect. So I added in a little bit here and a little bit there, and again went for the more is more approach. This mark making can be quite interesting. You can really just add in your own personality, do whatever you want with this sort of marks, and I really liked adding those in. So here's my focal points. I've stamped a few butterflies there, and then also added some text. Once the acrylic inks are dry, they're very easy to stamp over. You just want a permanent ink. And to colour those in, I used the acrylic paints again, so black on the bodies, and then again added in some white details. I did say that I like doing this, adding in the white paint to make things pop, and it works the same on the focal images as it does in the background. Use the finer detailing paintbrushes on these, as you can see, because it's quite fine detail again on these butterflies. They matched in very well with the flowers, similar sort of patterns. I used paint over the acrylic inks because the paint dries more opaque, and so it doesn't matter what colour is underneath, the white stays white, the black stays black. Again, using the tail end of the paintbrush to add some dots of paint in as well. I used the flexi glue from ColourCraft to stick down the butterflies and the text once that was prepared. I cut the text up into pieces and went round that with an ink pad to frame those. And I'd also added a little bit of glossy to the butterfly bodies to make them a little bit 3D as well, which is why they're so shiny, as you can see there. If this had been on a canvas, I would have used 3D foam, but in a journal I kept it flat. And there's the finished double page. Thanks for watching today. I hope you enjoyed that. Please give it a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye for now.